everyone's having a great weekend. We're going to be doing a video today on the difference between mobility versus flexibility. There have been a lot of questions that have come our way, so we're here to answer them for you today.
Yeah, so a common misconception is that a lot of people think that flexibility and mobility are the same thing, but they're not. Where flexibility is a component of mobility, they're two separate things, but they have a couple similarities, but they have more differences, I'd say. But so the common similarity is that both mobility and flexibility, your overall goal is to try and achieve full ranges of motion. Okay, so that's the similarity, but the differences between the two is that with flexibility, you're trying to achieve these full ranges of motion through passive movements. So you're trying to force your joints, ligaments, muscles into full ranges of motion, whereas with mobility, it's more of an active movement where we're doing our best to achieve full ranges of motion through getting into those movements and then getting out of them, which I think that baseball is more of a mobility dominant sport, which we're trying to get into certain movements and power out of them to achieve as much force as possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And a question that's come up is yoga, and that's good for baseball players. We'll be getting into that in another video, but one thing is that when you're going through these extreme ranges of motion and you're being forced into these positions and you haven't done them before, it can do more damage than good, because if your movement patterns are off, it's dysfunctional, and that leads to instability, which can lead to injury. So that's something to be careful of when you're doing yoga or doing any kind of extreme stretching. Just be careful of what you're doing. For example, another thing is that when you say, oh, I have tight hamstrings, or my hamstrings, I need to stretch my hamstrings, people go to yoga or other type of stretching, just be careful of what you're doing, because a lot of the times it's usually either excessive anterior pelvic tilt, which just puts you in a lot of tension in your hamstrings. So it seems like, oh, my hamstrings, they're so tight. But in reality, it's not your hamstrings. It's other parts of your body, because your body's fully connected, just like we talk about pitching a lot, is that it's all sequenced up from the feet to the hands. So that's something to look at too. So just because your hamstrings are tight, it doesn't mean that, hey, I need to go stretch it. Look to your pelvis. That could be another tell. So there's just examples of the mobility versus flexibility deal. And if you guys have any questions, more questions about it, reach out to us. Baseball Specific Training, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Have a good one.